Chapter 01 Uchiha Madara. Chapter size, 2,100 words. Third-person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. In the dim light of dawn, a 6-year-old boy awoke with a throbbing pain in his head. He opened his eyes, confused, scratching the ache on his forehead while an old woman scolded him severely. "Useless," she shouted. "You do nothing worthwhile and still spill all the water from the well before bringing it to the orphanage." Her voice was as rough as gravel, and her face was wrinkled by age and disdain. The boy, still dazed, looked around, trying to understand where he was. The earthen floor beneath him was damp and cold, with blood from his head. He was in an open courtyard, surrounded by dark stone walls that formed the orphanage, a place he should recognize, but his mind was blank. The woman continued to berate him, but her words seemed distant, muffled by the buzzing in his ears as he tried to figure out if this was a very strange dream. Finally, he found his voice, weak, and looked at the woman freaking out. "Who are you?" he asked, staring at the woman with eyes full of confusion. The question seemed to surprise her, and for a moment, but soon the perplexity on her face gave way to anger again. She glared at him, her narrow eyes studying him as if he were a stranger. "What do you mean? Who am I? I'm Mother Greta, the head of this orphanage, and you are one of the orphans I have to endure day after day." Her voice rose an octave in frustration. The boy tried to get up, but dizziness overcame him, and he fell back to the ground. He put his hand on his head, feeling the wound formed where he must have hit. "This doesn't seem like a dream. Where was I before this? Wait, who am I?" he thought, and the answer came soon after with another migraine with clouded memories. The memories were still hazy, escaping his grasp like shadows in the fog. "I don't remember you. I don't remember anything," he murmured, more to himself than to Mother Greta. His heart began to beat faster, a growing panic taking hold of him at that moment. Where was he? Who was he? Mother Greta sighed, a sound laden with impatience and disgust. "Get up, boy, we have no time for foolishness. There's much work to be done, and you've already caused enough trouble for today." The boy tried to obey, supporting himself on trembling arms. He looked around, seeing other orphans beginning to gather, drawn by the commotion. They watched him with a mix of curiosity and caution. No one came to help him. As he struggled to get up, a strange feeling began to form in the back of his mind. The memories that had been clouded until then began to emerge, as if something inside him had awakened with the fall, an unknown force he couldn't understand. He pressed his temples with his thin fingers, a sharp headache hammering in his skull even more. He closed his eyes for a moment, and flashes of memory began to come one after the other. He remembered poor, loving parents, a life that now seemed distant and unreal in a small village until there was a monster problem. While they sought a better life outside the village, there was a brutal ambush by bandits on the roads near Cintra. The terror of that fateful night flooded his mind, the glint of swords, the screams of his parents, the feeling of helplessness and fear. Watching them die in front of him, he would be taken as a child slave, but the bandits had been found by city soldiers. After all of them died, he was a lonely and traumatized 4-year-old boy. With no one to claim his guardianship, he was taken to the orphanage, a place that should have been a refuge, but which turned out to be another form of prison. Since then, the life of this boy had been an endless cycle of hard work and cruelty, with adults demanding endless things from the child, and he would have to have something with which he could fill his stomach at the end of the day. Even being just a child of 4, 5 and now 6 years old, he was forced to perform heavy tasks, far exceeding what would be expected of someone his age. Mother Greta, the person in charge of the orphanage, had no sympathy for sad stories. To her, everyone there was just mouths to feed, hands to work. Over the years, she often wondered why life had to be so relentless, why he had to lose everything he loved. But no one in the orphanage had time for such reflections. Survival was the only concern, even among the children. As the other children began their morning chores, the boy tried to gather the strength to stand up. The headache was slowly diminishing, leaving behind a strange sensation, a kind of tingling in the back of his consciousness. Gradually, the boy stood up, leaning on the stone walls of the orphanage. He looked at his hands, small and calloused from work, and felt strange. He was that boy, but at the same time, he believed he was not, that he was actually someone else. Then another flood of memories appeared in his mind, but without pain. He remembered another world, one where he was not a boy and much more developed than this one. Still leaning against the stone wall of the orphanage, he felt a whirlwind of thoughts and emotions flooding him. He was lost, not just physically, but in his own existence. The memory of his death, even though he was young, a confusing and distant event, began to emerge in his stunned mind. He had died, and now, somehow incomprehensibly, was here, in this place, in this body of a child that should not exist. The city of Cintra, which before seemed familiar, now he knew he was in a specific world that should not exist, as Cintra should only exist in the universe of The Witcher, a realm of monsters, magic, and warriors. How he, a person from another world, did not know how, had come to be here. Was this a whim of fate, a quirk of the universe, or something more? He kept asking, but there was no one to answer other than the angry eyes of that woman who didn't seem to care if he was a hurt child or not. Mother Greta called out to him, bringing him back to the harsh reality of the orphanage. "Boy, stop daydreaming and start working." Her voice was like a whip, cutting through the cold morning air. With a sigh, the boy simply turned away, completely ignoring the severe words of Mother Greta, and left through the gate without caring about that woman, leaving the old woman talking to herself. As soon as he found himself outside the orphanage, his eyes opened in a mix of surprise. Before him lay the city of Cintra, not like a game or a story in a book, a place that seemed to belong to a dark and complex fairy tale in medieval times. Calandre Castle dominated the horizon, an imposing fortress of gray stones and tall towers that rose like silent giants over the city. Its robust walls and flags fluttering in the wind spoke of a past filled with battles and glories, a constant reminder of the strength and history of that land and the battles that Queen Calanth always fought without backing down. In the streets, the boy continued walking away from the orphanage and observed a constant parade of soldiers and citizens. The soldiers, with their polished armor and swords hanging at their sides, moved with a purpose and confidence that only came from the certainty of protecting and serving. The citizens, on the other hand, displayed a variety of attire, from simple and practical garments to more elaborate clothing of those who seemed to have a higher position in society. As the boy walked through the streets, he inevitably found himself in the way of people. Some citizens cast glances of contempt or irritation at him, muttering curses under their breath. "Get out of the way, kid," a man grumbled as he gently pushed him aside. The boy, still absorbed in his admiration and confusion, barely noticed these interactions, his mind focused on absorbing every detail of the world around him. The city was a melting pot of activities, merchants selling their goods in colorful stalls, children running through the narrow streets, and the constant sound of conversations, laughter, and the occasional argument filling the air. It was a living place, pulsating with the energy of its inhabitants, each playing their part in the fabric of everyday life. For the boy, this was a completely new world, a place of endless possibilities and mysteries to be discovered, since he was naturally a fan of the Witcher 3 game. Madara wandered the streets of Cintra, his eyes capturing every detail of the vibrant and strangely new city for his old life, and familiar to the life that was in his memories. "How is it possible that I am here?" he murmured to himself now, his voice almost lost in the city's hustle and bustle. "How can this world, which I only knew in stories, be real?" Each step he took seemed to confirm more and more the reality of this world, a world he only knew as fiction. The boy was also drawn to the city's architecture. The stone houses with thatched roofs, he passed by taverns filled with laughter and songs, where travelers and locals shared stories. Sometimes, he caught fragments of conversations about terrifying monsters, powerful sorcerers, and, of course, the Witchers, the monster hunters who seemed to be as revered as feared. All of this was incredibly fascinating for the boy, but also deeply disconcerting. With each step, he kept asking how he had gotten there and what his presence in this place meant. After a few minutes, exhausted from his wanderings and overwhelmed with thoughts about his new reality, the boy found refuge at a lake in a square, a common water well in many cities. Sitting on the edge, he looked into the calm water's reflection, seeing his own face for the first time since he woke up in that unknown world. His hair was dark, almost as dark as the night, and framed a face that could be considered handsome for a boy, were it not for the layer of dirt that covered it. His eyes, now fixed on his reflection, had a depth and intensity that seemed disproportionate for his age. As he watched his reflection, a vague memory of that face began to tingle at the edge of his consciousness. He felt he knew that face, that appearance, from somewhere, but couldn't remember where. As the boy moved away from the water, suddenly, in front of his eyes, a translucent blue screen appeared, floating in the air as if it were an illusion. The words on it glowed with a soft light. Madara Uchiha Model System. Congratulations, you have unlocked the system. Bonus received to 1% of Uchiha Madara's peak. The boy was initially startled, but then stared at the screen, his eyes widening in disbelief. He blinked several times, not understanding what he was seeing. This is impossible, he murmured to himself, still staring fixedly at the floating screen. He reached out his hand, almost expecting his fingers to pass through a mirage, but felt a soft, almost electric resistance. This, he repeated, his voice a whisper of astonishment. Uchiha Madara, wait, now that I remember and realize, this is my name in this world. Madara, the 6-year-old boy, hadn't thought about what his name was in this world, but now he remembered, and most importantly, on the screen was, Peak of Uchiha Madara. The boy knew the stories of the legendary Uchiha Madara, an overpowered character from a completely different world. And now, somehow, he was connected to this character, not just by name and appearance, as he remembered that his appearance was that of Uchiha Madara in childhood as he remembered now, but also by being a bearer of a system that promised him a fraction of Madara's legendary power. What did this mean for him? How could he, a simple orphan in an unknown world, harbor such power? 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 02 Sistema Chakra. Chapter size, 1800 words. Third person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. Madara was immersed in thoughts, alone in the square, while people went about their business, passing by the place without caring about the child there. The orphan boy was still trying to assimilate the astonishing appearance of the blue screen and the words that accompanied it, along with the revelations that came with them. He vaguely remembered the name Madara Uchiha, a legendary figure he knew from stories and tales. Who was Madara Uchiha? He wondered, intrigued and confused. The name evoked images of a powerful warrior, someone revered and feared in equal measure. Madara Uchiha was a legend, known for his unparalleled strength and abilities that defied comprehension even in his world. But how were this name and this legacy connected to him, an orphan boy in a world that was not his? Madara examined the screen more closely, touching it again. It reacted to his touch, displaying more information, details about abilities. System, Peak of Power, 1%. Chakra, 100 chakra equivalent to a genin. Note, chakra is the vital energy used to perform jutsus. It must be managed carefully. Sharingan, 1 tomo. Note, allows enhanced perception and the ability to anticipate basic enemy movements. Mangekyo Sharingan, locked. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, locked. Rinnegan, locked. Fire Jutsus. Kaden, Hosenka no Jutsu, Fire Technique, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Description, allows the user to spit multiple fireballs in rapid succession. Requires practice for perfection. Wind Jutsus, locked. Wood Jutsus, locked. Dash 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 dash. The boy looked at the list again, dazed. 1% of the peak of Uchiha Madara, he read aloud, feeling a mix of excitement and fear. What did it mean to have even a small fraction of the power of someone so extraordinary? Sharingan 1 tomo, chakra equivalent to a genin, and a fire jutsu. How could he use this power? And more importantly, why had he been chosen to receive such a gift? Furthermore, what were the rest of the locked abilities, Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, Rinnegan, and Mokuden? Just one of these abilities could unbalance the world he found himself in. With such power, Madara pondered, I could be invincible. I could face any challenge, defeat any enemy. The idea of possessing such formidable abilities was both exhilarating and frightening. In a world like The Witcher, filled with dangers, monsters, and political intrigues, such power could be a blessing or a curse. Well, this is something to think about in the future. For now, I'm just 6 years old and an orphan in a capital. I must first resolve my current situation. Madara knew these were not questions that could be answered quickly. They would require time, experience, and probably many challenges in this new world. Madara was about to leave where he was when, suddenly, without any prior warning, the blue system screen vanished before Madara's eyes, disappearing as if it had never existed. In its place, a new sensation began to emerge within him, an energy that flowed through his entire body. It was a vital, pulsating, and powerful force, something that Madara intuitively recognized as chakra. Madara felt the chakra coursing through his veins like a vibrant electric current, bringing a sense of strength and vitality that flooded his being. It was a new experience, filled with a pulsating energy that seemed to ignite every cell in his body. At the same time, there was a strange familiarity in this sensation, as if a dormant part of his being had always known the existence of this power but only now awakened to its true nature. As the chakra flowed, there was no pain, just a feeling of growing power and unlimited potential. Madara closed his eyes, focusing intensely on the sensation. He could visualize the chakra in his mind, like a luminous and dynamic river of pure energy, flowing through a labyrinth of channels within him. This energy flow pulsed with a life of its own, a continuous cycle that connected him to a cosmos of unexplored possibilities. With his eyes still closed, Madara felt this energy enveloping him, a presence as tangible as the air he breathed. It was both frightening and exciting. The power within him was vast and unknown, full of promises and dangers. The confirmation that the system was real, and that he had access, albeit limited, to the legendary powers of Uchiha Madara, was an overwhelming revelation. "This is chakra," Madara murmured to himself, his voice low, almost in reverence. He knew, through the stories he had heard and the memories that were beginning to form in his mind, that chakra was the source of power for a myriad of incredible abilities. It was a force that, in his original world, only existed in legends and tales, but here, in this new world, it had become a tangible and powerful reality, exclusively his to command and explore. He was unique in this world, an anomaly in this plane that no ancient and powerful being, or even a god, could have foreseen his existence. Madara opened his eyes, looking at his hands. He could feel the chakra pulsating under his skin, ready to be shaped and used. A sense of determination filled him. He would learn to master this power. He would discover the extent of his new abilities. And, above all, he would understand how to use this power to navigate this dangerous and mysterious world. Madara resolved to act with this feeling of excitement. No matter that moments ago he had seen his death, he wanted to use this new power. If he was here and had these abilities, why not use them? As someone with memories of a Naruto fan, he immediately headed towards the city gate according to his memories of this world. Madara left the square behind and began to head towards one of the capital's gates. The main streets of Cintra were always bustling, with merchants selling their goods, citizens hurried in their daily affairs, and soldiers patrolling with an air of authority. Madara, with an agility uncommon for a boy his age, glided through the busy streets of Cintra, his movements almost like a ballet in the shadows of dusk. Using his newfound abilities, with each step, he demonstrated an acumen and dexterity that kept him one step ahead of the people around him. He was aware of every vendor shouting to attract customers, of every conversation among passers-by, of every guard patrolling the streets with watchful eyes as he passed unnoticed like a shadow. Finally, he arrived at the city gate. It was an imposing structure, with tall watchtowers and armed guards who controlled who entered and left. Madara quickly assessed the situation, looking for the best way to pass unnoticed. Madara cautiously approached the city gate, which was teeming with activity. Merchants were coming and going, carrying various goods ranging from colorful fabrics to exotic spices. The guards, in their strategic positions, inspected the loads and asked questions of the merchants, ensuring that nothing suspicious entered or left the city. Observing attentively, Madara noticed that, although the guards were vigilant, there were moments when their attention was completely focused on a particularly thorough inspection. It was a perfect opportunity for someone like him, small and agile, to pass unnoticed. Madara spotted an opening and quickly approached, staying close to a group of merchants carrying baskets of fruit. While a guard leaned in to inspect a load of fabric, Madara took advantage of the distraction to blend into the flow of people passing through the gate. However, a guard noticed him. "Hey, kid," the guard called out, his voice laden with authority and disdain. "Where do you think you're going like that all alone? You look more like a little thief than a decent citizen." Madara froze for a moment, feeling the weight of the guard's gaze upon him. In Cintra, children like him were often viewed with suspicion, and the guards were not known for their kindness or compassion. Quickly, he weighed his options. Direct confrontation was out of the question. He was just a child and could possibly compete with an armed guard, but he was not accustomed to this power, so he lacked the confidence to do something like that without drawing attention. His best chance was to use his agility and speed, qualities he now possessed in abundance. Without responding to the guard, Madara suddenly turned and ran. His small stature and natural agility gave him an initial advantage, and he quickly distanced himself from the surprised guard. He zigzagged through the crowd, using people as cover, becoming just another face in the crowd. The guards, caught off guard by Madara's sudden escape and the speed with which he moved, took a moment to react. By the time they started to pursue him, Madara had already gained a good distance. Breathing calmly, Madara looked satisfied at the open road ahead of him, still bustling with people entering and leaving the city. He was now outside the city limits, free to explore the vast and unknown world of The Witcher, alongside Cintra. With a mix of excitement and determination, he began to run forward while some guards were still looking for him and shouting at him. Madara continued on his way until he felt he was at a good distance from the gate with his quite fast running, which surprised many people's carts on that road. He turned and headed towards the forest. There was no better place than this to start training. More than that, he would make this place his temporary home, since he had no plans to return to that orphanage. The trees stood tall as he entered the forest, their canopies forming a canopy that filtered sunlight into dancing patterns on the forest floor. Madara, although cautious of the potential dangers the forest might hide, felt a sense of freedom as he entered this new territory. He knew that in a world like The Witcher, forests could be home to creatures both wondrous and fearsome monsters, but he was determined to face whatever he encountered. Moreover, he was a child who ran at 60 kilometers per hour before coming here. He was quite confident he could escape from most things he encountered. Thus Madara began to venture into the forest outside of Cintra, determined to explore his new abilities and adapt to them. He would start the beginning of his training that would begin in that forest, and his ascent would be at the top of this world in a few years. Raccoon here. I didn't find it necessary to put chakra control, taijutsu, and genjutsu in the system. I believe he will develop these without the system. 10 comments 0 vote. Chapter 03 Training 01. Chapter size, 1800 words. Third person Pav. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. ... Madara continued running through the forest. He had never entered such a tense place before. Even the sunlight began to diminish as he delved deeper into the area. He saw animal life and their tracks along the way. Finally, he stopped running when he reached a lake in the middle of the area. I think this will be a good place to start training, he murmured. Madara thought that staying in Cintra was not a good idea at the moment. He wanted to become stronger, and Madara was aware of the war that would envelop this kingdom in the future. Maybe he only had about 6 years for this. He would have to get strong if he wanted to survive. Madara breathed in the fresh air at the lake before starting his training. I feel my chakra, but I clearly don't have control over it, except to be faster than a normal person would be. Let's see how I can control this energy in other ways. He murmured and looked at the lake, which reflected the clouds of Cintra in the water. Now, let's see if I can do this, Madara said, focusing. He knew that chakra control was essential for executing jutsus. Closing his eyes, he tried to feel the flow of chakra in his body, attempting to direct it as he had learned. Opening his eyes, Madara began to make the hand seals for the only jutsu he had, Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu, a basic fire technique. He remembered the sequence of seals, moving his hands with difficulty since he had never done this before, having it only in his mind without muscle memory. He completed the sequence after a few seconds, but when he tried to release the chakra and perform the jutsu, the result was mediocre. A small flame came out of his mouth, much less impressive than he expected. Clearly, this is going to require practice, Madara said, a bit frustrated but not discouraged. He knew that mastering jutsus would not come easily, especially for someone like him. I feel my chakra, but I clearly don't have control over it. Maybe I should do some exercise that I remember from the original work. I doubt I can walk on trees now, but I can do this. Madara went under a tree and picked up a fallen leaf, sitting in the shade and placing the leaf on his forehead, as he remembered, focusing on that point, trying to stick the leaf to his skin through the chakra. He concentrated, but the leaf lasted no more than 5 seconds. Well, let's not give up. Madara continued this training for the next few hours. He reached the point where he could stick the leaf for 20 seconds, but it still wasn't enough for him. However, the sun started to rise at that moment, so he had to find a place to spend the night and hunt an animal. I should have brought at least a knife with me, he complained, realizing he had nothing with him since he had left Cintra in a hurry. He chose a pointed branch and went into the forest. Not only could he run fast, but he could also jump meters off the ground, something even wizards couldn't do. He caught a rabbit by surprising it from above. After catching it, he cast his jutsu to at least make a fire and eat the rabbit after some difficulty in preparing it with a knife. Tomorrow I'll go after a tool, even if I have to steal a sword from a soldier. He complained and continued eating the rabbit. Night came, and he ended up sleeping on top of a tree. He heard many strange sounds, both from animals and monsters that night, but nothing bothered him, other than the discomfort of sleeping on a hard surface, but the bed in the orphanage wasn't much different from what he was experiencing. As the sun was rising, Madara walked through the forest until he found a merchant's camp. He managed to enter without being seen, grabbed a knife near the fire, and quickly ran back to the lake. He hunted another rabbit and this time ate better, cleaning his skin with the knife in hand. Madara continued training with the leaf, managing to keep it in place for 40 seconds by late morning. Returning to the hand seals to execute the jutsu again, he managed to increase the amount of fire being launched into small balls, which inspired him greatly as he was evolving. Madara trained for the next hour until he was out of chakra in his pool again. I think it's better to rest a bit, he murmured, sitting on top of the tree to go back to sleep. He quickly did the same routine when he slept some time ago, returning to the leaf training and trying to perform the fire jutsu on the lake. After that, he went hunting again and slept on top of the tree as soon as night arrived. The following day he did the same thing, and the next day, a bit more satisfied with his performance, he went to explore the forest. As he delved deeper into the forest, he observed the wildlife around him, noticing the trails left by animals. His recent hunting experience had helped him identify and interpret these signs more easily. At a certain point, Madara noticed something unusual, a gathering of small agitated creatures near a nest. They were neckers, creatures he vaguely recognized from stories he had read or played. They were small but notoriously aggressive and dangerous in groups. Madara watched them from a distance, analyzing their movements and behaviors. He knew that with his current training, he was not ready to face a group of neckers. My fire jutsu could handle them in the future, but I still need to perfect it more, he thought. Deciding to avoid a confrontation, Madara quietly moved away, keeping a safe distance. He continued his exploration, now more aware of the dangers the forest harbored. The following days were a cycle of training, hunting, and exploration. Madara had established a small base in a tree near the lake, a place that gave him some security during the night and a good observation point. He improved his skills with the fire jutsu, managing to control the chakra better and increasing the intensity of the flames. He also continued the exercise with the leaf, managing to keep it attached to his forehead for increasingly longer periods. He had significantly improved his technique with the Kaiden, Hosenka no Jutsu, reaching a point where his fireballs were almost perfect. Now, he was determined to start the next phase of his training, learning to walk on trees, a skill he knew was possible through even more precise control of chakra. Let's see if I can do this, Madara murmured, focusing on feeling the flow of chakra in his feet. He remembered the tree walking technique from the stories of the Naruto world. Cautiously, he approached the trunk of a large tree and placed one foot against the rough bark. Focusing on balancing the chakra in the sole of his foot, he tried to take a vertical step. Initially, he slipped, struggling to maintain balance and concentration, and fell to the ground, scratching his head from the fall. Well, let's continue this. Madara spent days practicing and quickly getting results from the second day, climbing up and down the tree trunk, learning to adjust the flow and pressure of the chakra. Madara had strengthened at this point and his jutsu was now perfect, so he started the next training, which was walking on water. This routine lasted about a few more days. Madara didn't pay attention, but he focused on controlling chakra for almost 2 months in the forest. He was going to face a real challenge now. Determined to test his abilities in a real situation, he remembered the neckers he had encountered earlier and decided to face them. Moving with agility and lightness, Madara traversed the forest, leaping from tree to tree. His training had improved not just his chakra abilities but also his perception and reflexes. With each leap, he precisely calculated the distance and the necessary momentum, moving like a shadow among the treetops. As he approached the necker's nest, Madara slowed down, approaching cautiously. He knew underestimating these creatures could be fatal. From above, he observed the nest, analyzing the necker's layout and looking for the best strategy to approach them. The Neckers, busy with their activities in the nest, moving some animal carcasses while some fought each other in front of the nest, didn't notice Madara's presence. Madara leapt from the tree, landing silently on the ground at a safe distance from the nest. Quickly, he performed the hand seals and released the Kaden, Hosenka no Jutsu. Flames erupted from his mouth in multiple fireballs, each one aimed precisely. The Neckers were caught off guard, and the fire attack caused disorder and confusion among them. Taking advantage of the chaos, Madara continued his attack, moving swiftly and launching more fireballs. His agility and the precision of his jutsus were evident, and soon he managed to disperse the group of Neckers, who fled into the safety of the forest, fearing the power of his flames. Some Neckers, bolder and more aggressive, were not intimidated by his flames and advanced fiercely in his direction after finding the responsible for the destruction of their nest, jumping with extended claws, ready to attack. Madara remained calm. During his time in the forest, he had improvised some basic weapons, including a kind of kunai made of sharp twigs and pieces of stone. He quickly grabbed them, prepared to defend himself. The Neckers were rapidly closing in, but Madara was ready. With the agility and reflexes he had developed, he dodged the first attack and counter-attacked, throwing his improvised kunais with deadly precision. Each throw found its target, severely wounding the Neckers trying to attack him. The monsters, despite their wild and aggressive nature, were not prepared to face such an agile and lethal opponent. Those not hit by Madara's kunais quickly retreated, realizing they could not win this fight. Madara stayed on guard until all the remaining Neckers dispersed, fleeing back into the safety of the forest. Taking a deep breath, he assessed the situation. Despite some scratches and the rush of adrenaline, he was unharmed. He felt a sense of satisfaction. "I am getting stronger," he said to himself, a smile of satisfaction crossing his face. With this victory, Madara felt he was ready to continue his training and explore the forest further, facing greater challenges. Dash 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 dash. Raccoon here. Madara doesn't start off very strong. I want to detail his evolution and give him space to grow. 5 comments 0 vote. Download the app for greater interaction. You can chat with me about my writing experience apart from the comments section. RaccoonLeague. Download app now. Chapter 04 Training 02. Chapter size, 1800 words. Third person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. On a fresh spring morning, a group of farmers was preparing for a trip to the city of Cintra. They had organized a small convoy of 6 wagons, each loaded to the brim with fresh vegetables, juicy fruits, and a variety of agricultural products, all harvested from their fertile lands in the more rural areas of the kingdom. They hoped for good business in the capital's market, known for attracting buyers from all parts of the kingdom. The convoy was led by a veteran farmer named Egan, known for his wisdom and experience. He drove the first wagon, guiding the group along the winding road that cut through the green hills toward the city. Beside him, his eldest son, Bram, watched attentively, learning the ways of trade and travel. In the other wagons, whole families joined the journey, with children playing among the piles of vegetables and women sharing recipes and stories with each other. There was an air of optimism and camaraderie among them, despite the dangers that such a journey could present. As the sun rose in the sky, illuminating the golden fields around, the convoy moved slowly, with the horses pulling the full wagons with steady effort. They exchanged songs and laughter, creating a cheerful atmosphere despite the long journey ahead. However, as they approached a more densely wooded area, Egan began to feel a certain apprehension. He knew that roads like these could be dangerous, harboring bandits targeting unsuspecting travelers. "Everyone alert now," Egan called back, his serious voice cutting through the relaxed air. "We are entering uncertain territory. Keep your eyes open." Bram, noticing the change in his father's tone, fixed his gaze on the road ahead. The women stopped their conversations, and even the children seemed to sense the change in atmosphere, silencing their games. As the convoy of farmers made their way towards Cintra, a silent tension settled among them. Egan, the veteran farmer, felt a growing foreboding, his eyes constantly scanning the edges of the forest beside the road. Suddenly, the silence was broken by the whizzing of arrows cutting through the air. Before anyone could react, the arrows struck several farmers, causing immediate chaos. Egan and even his son were caught in this attack. Cries of pain and surprise echoed through the convoy as families ducked, seeking shelter in the wagons. From the midst of the forest, a group of 8 brutal bandits emerged, armed with axes, swords, and clubs. Beyond them, archers hidden among the trees continued to fire arrows, increasing the terror and confusion among the farmers. "They ambushed us," Bram shouted in pain from an arrow lodged in his foot, trying to protect himself behind the wagon while helping his father with another arrow in his chest. Egan, firmly holding his son's clothes while screaming and trying to ignore the pain he was feeling, said desperately, "Protect yourselves. Don't let them get near the children." The bandits advanced with savage violence, their eyes gleaming with the anticipation of loot. They began to attack the farmers, who, though not warriors, desperately tried to defend themselves and protect their families. Some farmers, armed only with field tools, faced the bandits with courage, despite the evident fear. The women tried to keep the children hidden under tarps and among the goods, while the men fought to repel the attackers. The conflict was unequal and brutal. The bandits, accustomed to violence and better armed, had the advantage over the farmers. It didn't take long for the place to fill with bodies of victims, painting the ground red, while women cried and clung to their children. "Ha ha, a new loot. Let's take the wagons and the women to the camp," one of the bandits said, smiling maliciously. "And the children, leave them in the middle of the road, some monster will eat them later." Despair grew among the women and children, as they saw their friends and family brutally murdered. The women screamed, trying to protect the frightened crying children as they were dragged away from the children in an act of inhumane cruelty. "They're taking us," a young woman screamed, struggling in vain against the rough hands that grabbed her. As the bandits plundered the farmers' convoy, celebrating while they wiped the blood off their weapons in a wild and cruel atmosphere. They laughed and kicked the corpses of the innocent with disdain, celebrating their brutal and inhumane victory. However, something happened that interrupted their current celebration as some began to undress women amid screams and crying children while some of them simply kicked them. From the midst of the forest, silent as a shadow, a wooden kunai flew towards the group, hitting one of the bandits' neck with deadly precision. The man screamed, surprised and in agony, before falling to the ground, his life rapidly draining from his body. The group of bandits turned in shock, searching for the source of the unexpected attack. They grabbed their weapons, archers aiming their arrows, looking suspiciously at the dense forest surrounding them. "Who's there? Show yourself," one of the bandits shouted towards the forest, his voice echoing among the trees. They awaited a response, but only silence greeted them, increasing the tension in the air. Suddenly, from the midst of the dense foliage, more wooden kunais were thrown with precision, this time targeting the 2 archers of the group, who were hit before they could react. The archers fell to the ground, surprised as they tried to remove the wooden weapon from their necks, but their lives were ending with the hemorrhage. The rest of the bandits, now terrified by the attack coming from unknown directions, began to retreat, looking around for their invisible attacker. "We're being ambushed," another shouted, while trying to identify the source of the attacks. The women, who were previously being pressed by the bandits, ran to the crying children, embracing them to escape from there. Inside the forest, on top of a tree, there was a boy not older than most of the children from the wagon, but this boy was different. Even within the shadows of the trees, his eyes shone crimson with unique black designs showing one tomo. He had spent another month with Madara training in the forest, completing 2 months since he left Cintra. He was passing by when he heard a woman's cries for help and went to check, quickly understanding the situation and starting his attack against those bandits. He could see all shapes with his Sharingan, which he had been training in the last month, and has abilities to see a little further and even see enemies behind walls and objects. While carefully observing the group of bandits, he took down 3 of them, including 2 archers. There were 9 hidden behind the wagons. "I think we're going to act in close combat," Madara murmured and began jumping through the trees, putting chakra in his feet to do humanly impossible things while leaping in the air with a small sword he had acquired in the last month. The blade was unsheathed as he was in the air, the hidden bandits still trying to find their aggressor in the shadows, while he was already jumping over them. Madara had chosen his first target when he jumped from the tree. The man looking at the bush was surprised by a blade piercing his back while he let out a surprised and pained scream, falling to the ground as the boy pulled the blade from his back and prepared for the fight. The bandits, surprised by this, looked at the child who had just pierced one of their companions, stunned. The boy had already taken a combat stance while gazing at them with his Uchiha eyes. A child, kill him, one of the bandits shouted angrily. You damned monster. One of them came with a club, but Madara simply cut him at the wrist before he could lower the blow. Ah, my hand, he screamed, but was quickly silenced as his head was cut off. Monster. This boy is a monster. One of the bandits shouted, while another three ran towards Madara. Madara, in a fighting stance, began to parry swords, and many astonished onlookers saw a 6-year-old child fighting against 3 adults at the same time. He performed acrobatics among the 3, avoiding all their strikes like a dance. Some could see the boy's eyes moving to each blow as if he were analyzing their trajectory. What is this kid? One of the attackers shouted in fear, as this boy was handling them. Archers, hit him. Ah, the bandit screamed, but Madara decided to end it, cutting the throat of one of them. An arrow flew towards him, but he surprisingly caught it with his hand and buried it in the neck of another bandit while he slashed the last one. There were 5 more bandits, but all were trembling and looking at this child with bodies scattered around him, thinking they were facing some kind of monster. Even the survivors from the wagons looked on with even more fear, though some seemed quite satisfied to see those bandits dead. We have to run. This child is a monster. 3 of them began to run while the archers, with their bows trembling, shot at Madara. Dodging an arrow and using his small sword to deflect the last projectile, Madara ran faster than any human they had ever seen, slashing the archers one after another. The place fell silent at that moment, only the crying of the children and women in a corner was heard, everyone looking at that boy with fearful eyes. Why? Madara turned to one side and saw a young man with an arrow lodged in his foot. He probably would never walk right for the rest of his life because of it. Why? He repeated, showing a look of hatred while crying. Why didn't you come earlier, monster? You could have saved everyone. Bram screamed in mourning for the death of several friends and his father who died in the attack. Madara just looked at him for a while before starting to walk in the direction the bandits had gone. He knew how ungrateful the people of this world were, so he didn't care much for it. Of course, he understood this young man, it had happened to him too, and it was probably the same group of bandits. Now he could avenge his parents of this world. He had been trying to locate the group for the last few weeks, but without success. Now was his chance. He jumped into the trees, following the 3 men who ran through the forest still frightened, wondering if that red-eyed child was following them, but they couldn't imagine that the same boy was right above them, silently observing the path they took. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 05 Training 03. Chapter size, 1900 words. Third person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. ... Madara silently followed the bandits, concealed by the shadows of the forest. Ensuring his presence remained unnoticed, he entered the forest. Every so often, they looked back, searching for the monster child, but they couldn't see him. Did we lose him? One bandit exclaimed. I think so, but let's just head to the camp. That monster wouldn't attack our whole group, another replied. But you saw, that wasn't a child, his eyes were as red as blood, and he killed like a beast, said a third. Shut up, just follow the path. Another snapped. As they made their way deeper into the forest, Madara silently leapt from branch to branch. He moved with the agility and grace of a predator, his red Sharingan eyes keenly observing every move of the bandits below. The bandits, clearly disoriented and still in a state of panic, didn't realize they were being followed from above. They continued running through the forest, looking back more frequently but failing to notice Madara's presence. Meanwhile, high in the trees, Madara deactivated his Sharingan to conserve chakra and continued leaping. His 2 months of training in the forest had taught him to move undetected, blending into the natural surroundings, so panicked bandits wouldn't easily find him. Eventually, 2 hours later, the bandits arrived at a location that seemed to be a meeting point or camp. It was a clearing in the forest, with several makeshift tents and a central fire pit that had not yet been lit. There were signs that more than 4 dozen people used this space, footprints, food scraps, and weapons scattered on the ground. When the fleeing bandits finally reached the camp, they were visibly shaken, their expressions pale and eyes wide with fear. As they entered the clearing, they began anxiously reporting to the other band members about the monster, a child with red eyes who had decimated their companions and fought faster than any human. Not even 3 adults could stand against him. The people in the camp looked at the newcomers with a mix of surprise and disbelief. Where are the others? asked an older man, clearly the leader. And the carts you were supposed to bring? The bandits stuttered confused responses, still shaken. They're dead, one said, trembling. We couldn't get the carts, another said, out of breath. That boy, he attacked us. I've never seen anything like it. He was like a demon. The camp was abuzz with murmurs. The bandits exchanged looks, trying to comprehend what had happened. The group leader frowned, clearly displeased with the news. A child did this to you? He asked, his voice laden with scorn and doubt. How could a boy kill so many men? One was trying to explain, but his words sounded incoherent and unbelievable. His eyes, they were red. He moved like a ghost, faster than an animal. 3 adults tried to kill him, but the boy killed them all, he said, looking back as if he expected Madara to emerge from the shadows at any moment. I saw him dodge an arrow. Another spoke up, somewhat alarmed. Okay, you've encountered a monster and you think it's a child, now go inside and rest, you need it. We mourn the others, but there's nothing to be done. Tomorrow we'll hunt this monster, the leader said, clearly not believing what he heard. As they entered one of the tents to rest, the boy in question was watching the camp from a safe position atop a taller tree, hidden among the leaves of a large tree. He studied the layout of the camp, identifying entry and exit points, and considering the best strategy for attack. His plan was to act under the cover of darkness, using the element of surprise to his advantage during twilight. We have 50 men, of those 50, 20 are archers, but they won't be useful when I attack. I can eliminate most before they even realize I'm in the camp. Madara assessed the situation, also noting their weapons like clubs, swords, and axes. Madara looked to a corner and saw, in a part of the camp away from the main tents, a group of women who appeared to have been captured and abused by the bandits. He counted the men again, memorizing their positions and armaments for the next few hours without moving a muscle of his body. His plan was to first neutralize the sentinels and then infiltrate the middle of the camp. Night began to paint the sky with the last ray of the sun, and the bandits started to light the fire, making a feast and dragging some women into their tents. Madara remained still, not moving a muscle, analyzing the entire situation for the next few hours. Facing a leader with 50 men would be a very difficult task for me, but catching them off guard and after a feast makes my job much easier. He thought, feeling the situation was in his favor. When everything calmed down and the light was in the middle of the sky, he finally decided to act. When his eyes closed and opened in a bright scarlet tone, shining in the darkness, he moved with agility and silently out of his hiding spot, approaching the camp with the lightness of a shadow. The night covered him like a cloak, and since he was already wearing black clothes, only the reflection of his Sharingan could betray him as he got closer to the camp. Madara had already studied the pattern of the sentinels, and with all this information, he began to act. He decided to start by neutralizing all the edges of the camp. A sentinel with a bow looked up as a shadow with red eyes jumped on him and delivered a kick so strong that the sound of his neck breaking was heard in the area, alerting another archer beside him who looked a bit confused, as he was a little tired. But this only lasted a few milliseconds, as Madara had already taken a kunai from his pocket and threw it at the other sentinel who fell unable to react while agonizing in pain in his own blood without being able to speak. He didn't stop there, advancing against the next archers, one by one, eliminating the bandits on the edge of the camp. His ninja skills were something never seen in this world, so it was very easy for Madara to approach undetected and incapacitate them. Now continuing to use his silent feet, he advanced to the center of the camp. There was a group at the fire. He first went after those sitting next to the tents drinking, using his sword to start slicing their necks before they could react. Eliminating one by one, he attacked the group with 3 men in front of the fire, a direct attack killing one by surprise, the other 2 screamed in shock before falling to the sword of the little ninja. He knew this was his limit, as these bandits made a loud noise, but Madara was satisfied to have eliminated just under half of the camp. One from the group saw the corpses on the ground and the boy, before shouting to alert everyone. "Intruder, here," he yelled, his voice full of panic and surprise. Immediately, the camp turned into chaos. Bandits rushed out of their tents, armed and ready to fight. They quickly gathered, trying to form a defense against the unknown enemy who had invaded their camp. They saw the boy, a little surprised that a child was killing them, and all advanced against the boy, attacking en masse. Seeing this group coming his way, Madara prepared for a broader attack. He quickly formed a seal with his hands, concentrating his chakra. The bandits, realizing the movement, but not knowing what it meant, watched the boy quickly forming signs with his hands. Madara puffed his cheeks before spitting them out with a blast of chakra and releasing his fire jutsu. From his mouth, a rain of fireballs burst forth, heading straight towards a group of advancing enemies. The fire jutsu hit them with full force, enveloping them in burning flames. Screams of pain and surprise echoed through the camp as the bandits burned. The smell of smoke and charred flesh spread through the air, adding a layer of horror to the already chaotic scene. The remaining bandits instinctively recoiled, horrified by the devastating power of a child spitting fire like a wizard, but no wizard could breathe fire from their mouth. They looked at the young boy with wide eyes of fear, murmuring among themselves. "Monster, those eyes, it's just like they said, he's not human," some said, trembling in the face of the relentless force they were up against. Madara, with his Sharingan eyes still glowing intensely, remained focused and unperturbed by the screams of "monster." He knew his abilities were unusual in this world, so he wasn't surprised to be labeled this way, even though no child was an assassin like him, so he couldn't complain, could he? Madara faced them all before picking up his sword, which he had dropped to cast seals, and took the first step, causing everyone to instinctively step back. Madara didn't stop and began to run towards those who had still survived. He wouldn't stop until he eliminated the last of them. As the hours passed, dawn began to break, bringing the first rays of light through the openings in the trees. The morning light revealed the scene that had unfolded in the camp. All the bandits lay dead, victims of Madara's determination and skill. The camp, once a place of screams of fear and suffering, was now silent. Madara, standing among the bodies of the bandits, took a deep breath, feeling the weight of what he had done. Although he knew his actions had been necessary to end the threat the bandits posed, the reality of the violence still weighed on him, as he couldn't yet get used to it. With the arrival of morning, Madara began to walk through the camp, looking for any survivors who might need help. Madara turned his attention to the people who were trapped in the camp, who were only women. Initially afraid of the child, now with dark eyes again, Madara began to free them from their bonds. Some of the women were in shock, unable to believe that the terror was over. "You are free," Madara said directly. "Those men will no longer hurt you." And before any woman could speak, the boy continued, pointing his finger in a direction. "Follow the trail to the east," Madara instructed. "It will take you back to the main road. From there, you can find your way home or seek help in a nearby village." Madara no longer seemed to care about them and began to leave the camp after picking up something valuable for future use. He sank into the forest, disappearing among the trees as if he were part of them. The solitude of the forest was his refuge and his training room. Madara was determined to become even stronger, having only fought some small monsters and humans wearing banditry. He was still far from facing the main threats of this world, not that he was in a hurry. After all, he was only 6 years old and had only 1% of Madara Uchiha in the system. 7 comments 0 vote. Chapter 06 Cirilla 01. Chapter size, 1800 words. Third person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. In a place, a great man moved through the forest, with a girl in dirty clothes by his side as they walked through the area. This man was Geralt of Rivia, a witcher, emerging from the dense Brokilon forest, accompanied by the young Ciri. The sunlight that penetrated the tree canopy illuminated their path. Geralt, who usually had an air of dexterity and coolness, seemed contemplative, almost disturbed by his encounter with Ciri, a girl who had been destined for him by the law of surprise. He had found her in the forest, a dangerous and mystical place by the force of destiny, governed by the Dryads, fierce defenders of their domains. Ciri, despite her young age, had entered the forest alone, demonstrating an unusual courage for a child, and found him. From the first moment their paths crossed in that forest, an inexplicable connection formed between them. Geralt felt a strange bond with the girl, something that went beyond logic or reason, something he never imagined having. After all, he could not have children, but still fought against it. Ciri, with her natural child's curiosity and inquisitive gaze, looked at Geralt with admiration and a slight trace of trust. She felt safe by the Witcher's side, even knowing little about him. There was something about Geralt that attracted her, a sense of familiarity and protection. They had left the forest after undergoing a test, Many things happened in this test, and he and the girl saw many strange things, things about prophecies and visions of the future. How is it training to be a witcher? She asked, looking at Geralt with curious eyes. Dangerous, replied Geralt, his expression serious. Can I be one too? She asked, a spark of challenge in her voice. No, said Geralt succinctly. Why not? Insisted Cirilla, frowning in frustration. Because it's dangerous and you could die. And if you survive, you will be infertile, explained Geralt, trying to appear indifferent. But I don't want to have children, retorted Cirilla, a bit defiantly. Everyone says that at first, Geralt replied, with a slight ironic smile. But I want to kill monsters, can you take me with you? The insistence in her voice was evident. No, Geralt kept his response firm. You don't feel it, we are connected, you must take me. Cirilla expressed, her tone becoming more insistent. No, Geralt repeated, maintaining calm. Didn't you hear those visions? Cirilla was clearly frustrated. Yes, Geralt admitted. Then take me to Kaer Morhen. She demanded. No, Geralt said again. You're so boring, Cirilla grumbled, crossing her arms. Geralt remained silent. Tell me, do you know what that vision of the man with red eyes was? Cirilla changed the subject, her curiosity now focused on Madara. I don't know, Geralt replied, pondering the question. But didn't the prophecy speak of a man with many types of eyes, black, red, and purple, that he would summon something that would make the entire continent tremble and no force in this world could fight him, even the gods feared him? Do you think it's real? Will I meet him? The girl spoke with a mix of excitement and fear. I don't know, Geralt responded, his expression becoming thoughtful. But the prophecy said that fate also intertwined him with me. She concluded, looking at Geralt expecting some response. Prophecies are dangerous and most are always misinterpreted, Cirilla, you can't trust them, Geralt spoke with a more severe tone than usual. But I'm confident that I'll meet this man, could he really shake the continent and make even the gods fear him? She asked in a dreamy tone. I don't know, Geralt sighed with the girl's insistence. And it doesn't help that the journey to Cintra was long. Finally, after days of travel, they entered the boundaries of Cintra. Cirilla questioned about the trees, the sounds of the birds, and even about the stories that Geralt told around the campfire during the nights to make the girl stop talking all the time. Geralt, how do you know so much about monsters? She asked with eyes shining with admiration and curiosity. Because I studied for it when I became a witcher. Have I ever told you that I want to be like you? The girl said enthusiastically. Geralt just sighed, but Cirilla, as always, didn't stop. Would you take me there one day, Geralt? To see where you learn to be a witcher? Kaer Morhen is no place for princesses, Cirilla, Geralt replied. Another day, they entered the forest wanting to reach the main road. At one moment, Cirilla started running around playfully in the forest, pretending to be a kind of female witcher fighting against monsters. Don't run around like that, Cirilla. Geralt spoke again in a severe tone, but the girl seemed not to care as she played along the way. She ran into a bush and disappeared from his sight, before letting out a scream. Ah! Cirilla! Geralt immediately ran, drawing his sword from his back. He found Cirilla lying on the ground trying to crawl back while a necrophage in front of her writhed, ready to attack the girl. Geralt had no choice but to cast a sign, which would hurt Cirilla too, but at least save her from the attack, since he was still too far to reach her. However, something happened before he could complete the sign. With a sound of air cutting with a projectile, the necrophage was hit in its head with a strange knife, making it fall back writhing. Cirilla managed to get away a bit from the creature. She did not notice what hit the monster's head, but Geralt frowned, not recognizing it, and he couldn't look back, because that wasn't the only necrophage emerging there. 3 more appeared, and Cirilla was still in danger. However, before Geralt could react, 3 wooden kunais struck the heads of the monsters, each kunai hitting a necrophage with devastating force, making them fall to the ground writhing like the first. These kunais, even being made of wood, were charged with chakra, penetrating the defense of those monsters. In a matter of seconds, the threat was temporarily neutralized, because only kunai reinforced with chakra could not kill necrophages. Cirilla, still trying to recover from the fright, turned towards where the kunais had been thrown, and where Geralt was also looking attentively, ready to defend himself if the one who attacked the necrophages was also an enemy. At the top of one of the trees, hanging upside down from a robust branch, was a boy. His posture defied gravity, as if he were stuck to the branch, a skill that defied all the laws of nature that Siri knew. His scarlet eyes shone intensely, standing out in the twilight of the forest. Geralt frowned, analyzing the scene with caution. He was used to extraordinary phenomena and supernatural beings, but the sight of the boy hanging upside down and having that kind of pair of eyeballs was unusual, even for him. Cirilla, on the other hand, was completely stunned. Red eyes. Who are you? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. The boy in the tree seemed like something out of a legend or fairy tale, something she never imagined could truly exist. The boy simply detached from the tree, and as he fell through the air, he turned his body with a somersault and landed on his feet from 6 meters without caring about the height that should have broken the legs of any other boy. Upon touching the ground, he straightened up, his eyes still glowing with intense red. My name is Madara Uchiha, he said, his voice calm and measured. Madara looked towards Geralt, then to Ciri, and finally at the 4 necrophages on the ground. I was chasing these creatures, hoping to find their nest to destroy it, but it seems our paths crossed at this moment, Madara commented calmly. Geralt remained alert, still holding his sword. He knew that, in the world they lived in, encountering someone with such extraordinary abilities could mean both a blessing and a threat. Cirilla, recovering from the initial shock, looked at Madara with curiosity and a bit of fear. How did you do that? She asked, referring to the way he was hanging in the tree. Madara looked at them with a slight smile. There are many things in the world that are difficult to explain, he replied. But for now, you should move away from the fallen creatures, my weapons will only delay them for a while, they will start to rise again soon. Madara spoke, moving towards that side. Ciri saw the necrophages beginning to writhe on the ground again and she quickly stood up and went behind Geralt. Geralt nodded in agreement. Seems so, he said. Let's continue. Together, we might better face the dangers that await us. You will need either fire or silver to kill them, the Witcher said to the boy, walking to the spot. Then I'm lucky to have one of them. Madara commented with a smile, as he began to form seals with his hands. What is he doing? Cirilla quickly asked, showing some admiration for the boy with red eyes. I don't know, Geralt admitted. He didn't think the boy was playing at something, but what he was doing was quite strange to him. When Madara completed the seals, his cheeks swelled with chakra and air, before he blew out a blast with his fire jutsu, hitting all the bodies of the fallen necrophages on the ground as they began to scream in pain. What is that? Can he spit fire? Cirilla exclaimed with wide eyes. Quote. Geralt did not respond, but frowned at that. Madara continued to release his jutsu, while his mouth spat flames for a few seconds before he released his jutsu. I guess that solves the problem. Madara observed the immobile and disintegrating bodies with his flames now, satisfied with that. I guess we're done here, I'll be leaving. I need to find the nest of these monsters and would do it now without them. He spoke and quickly began to move. Wait, Cirilla shouted, but Madara didn't stop, jumping between the trees to find his objective. It had been 6 months since he had entered these forests, his chakra control had increased a lot, even being able to put this energy into objects, but he was still at 1% in his system, not knowing how he could improve even more and unleash more powers. Meeting Geralt and Ciri is quite unexpected, but anyway, there's no reason we have this interaction now. Madara murmured and continued jumping with his feet wrapped in chakra, and he didn't even imagine how he had left an impact on the Witcher and Princess duo as he jumped through the air in the forest. 8 comments 0 vote. Chapter 07 Cirilla 02. Chapter size. 2,500 words. Third person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. Cirilla and Geralt continued their journey through the forest after seeing that the boy had left. They still had many questions about the strange boy who even made a Witcher like him cautious. While Geralt remained silent, keeping his questions to himself, the young woman beside him seemed unable to hold back, filled with questions about the enigmatic red-eyed boy they had encountered. She bombarded Geralt with questions, while he, with his usual calm, answered with short and direct sentences, often admitting he did not know the answers. Geralt, have you ever seen someone with eyes like his before? They were red but had dark spots. I've never seen anything like it. Are they magic eyes? Cirilla asked, trying to keep up with the Witcher's pace. No, and I don't know. Geralt replied, keeping his eyes on the path ahead. And how did he manage to spit fire like a dragon? That's amazing. she exclaimed, still impressed by the memory. I don't know, Siri. I've never seen anything like it before, Geralt admitted, starting to show signs of fatigue from the young woman's insistence. However, Cirilla was not ready to give up. And his jumps, Geralt. He leapt between the trees as if he were flying. How is that possible? Geralt sighed lightly, feeling the exhaustion from the girl's incessant curiosity. Maybe he trained for it, or maybe he has abilities that we simply don't understand. Cirilla seemed to ponder Geralt's answers, but her mind was still buzzing with more questions. Do you think he's some kind of witcher too? Or something even more powerful? No witcher can spit fire. Geralt spoke and continued. There are many things in this world that are beyond our understanding, Ciri, said Geralt, evasively. Do you think he's dangerous? She asked, looking at Geralt with a thoughtful expression. Possibly, Geralt responded, but he helped us against the necrophages. That must count for something. Could I do that too? She asked hopefully. Very unlikely, Geralt said, skipping a stone and helping Ciri up a steep path. Can you do that? She asked. No. Do you think we'll find him again? Cirilla questioned, looking back as if she expected to see Madara following them. It's hard to say, Geralt said, his voice revealing a trace of uncertainty. Cirilla sighed, frustrated with Geralt's evasive answers, but her curiosity about Madara remained. Geralt, do you think he's part of that prophecy? The man with the changing eye colors? Geralt stopped for a moment, looking at Ciri with seriousness. Remember that prophecies are not everything they seem, so don't just rely on that. Cirilla nodded, absorbing Geralt's words, but the image of Madara, with his red eyes and extraordinary abilities, remained fixed in her mind. As they continued their journey, the 6-year-old girl continued with her questions while Geralt had even stopped answering the girl many times. Geralt, do you think Madara is human or some kind of magical creature? How did he manage to hang from that tree upside down without falling? Did he learn to spit fire or was he born with that power? Do you think the red eyes of his have any special meaning? Could Madara be stronger than a witcher? How does he compare to you in skill? Do you think we could learn something from him? The questions finally stopped after a long and exhausting journey out of the forest. Geralt and Cirilla finally approached the outskirts of the city of Cintra. The sunlight began to set, casting long shadows on the road as they spotted the city's first patrols. The guards, in their distinctive uniforms, patrolled the area, keeping a vigilant eye out for any signs of danger or suspicious activity. Upon noticing the approach of Geralt and Cirilla, the guards quickly directed their attention towards them. Initially, their expressions were cautious, but they soon changed to surprise and relief upon recognizing the young princess. "Milady Cirilla," exclaimed one of the guards, a mix of respect and joy in his voice. "We were so worried. Your sudden disappearance caused quite a stir in the court and kingdom." "I'm back," Cirilla murmured to herself, somewhat displeased to be back. She responded with a shy smile to the soldier. "I'm fine, thanks to Geralt here," she said, indicating the witcher by her side. The guards turned their gaze to Geralt with a mix of respect and curiosity. The fame of the White Wolf, as Geralt was known in Cintra. "Master Witcher Geralt, it's an honor to have you back in Cintra by the court," said one of the guards, making a respectful bow. Without delay, the guards escorted Geralt and Cirilla to a camp that had been set up for the search for the princess before returning to the city. Upon arriving at the camp, Cirilla, who had not left Geralt's side, turned to him tugging at his clothes. "Geralt, I really don't want to go back to Cintra," she said, her voice laden with hesitation. "I wanted to go with you, to learn about monsters, about being a witcher." Geralt, knowing the dangers and the cruel fate awaiting those who chose the witcher's path, replied firmly. "Ciri, I've told you, I can't take you. The witcher's path is not for everyone, especially not for a princess of Cintra." At the center of the camp, a middle-aged man dressed in a robe like a mage and wielding a staff came to greet them. "Princess, it's great to see you safe and sound. You gave the queen quite the fright. She will be relieved at your return, much more than she might admit. And you, my old friend, who would have thought it would be you of all people to find the girl, but I'm not surprised." Mousesack greeted them with relief and nostalgia. "Mousesack," Geralt greeted with a small nod. "Princess, you're dirty. There are some servants who will take care of you, while I take your friend here for a moment." Mousesack spoke to Cirilla, and she was directed to a tent with servants while Mousesack would go to his personal tent with Geralt. Geralt, it's been many years. Mousesack said, serving a glass of wine for both. He looked at the Witcher with a serious look after those words. What is it? Geralt replied, taking the glass of wine. Mousesack looked directly into Geralt's eyes. You and Cirilla are bound by fate. It's not just a coincidence that you met. Geralt, always skeptical of the forces of fate, responded coolly. Coincidences happen, Mousesack. I was just in the right place at the right time. The mage shook his head. It's not that simple. Fate has plans for the two of you, whether you believe it or not. You are intertwined, for better or worse, you will be together. There's a paternal bond, you might even consider her your own daughter. Geralt remained impassive, though internally he pondered Mousesack's words. Even if that's true, I can't take care of a child. My life is too dangerous for someone like Cirilla. Mousesack hadn't given up as he drank his wine. Geralt, consider staying. She needs a protector, someone with your skills and experience. Geralt shook his head. Mousesack, you know I can't. My journey calls me elsewhere. Cirilla will be safer here, with you and the others. After a brief silence, Mousesack nodded, acknowledging Geralt's resolution. I understand. But remember, Geralt, fate has a way of bringing together the most unlikely paths. I just hope that when it does, it's not done through tragedy. Maybe, was the only thing Geralt said as he finished his glass of wine. Before you leave, there's something you should know, Geralt began, capturing Mousesack's attention. In the forest, we encountered a rather peculiar boy. He called himself Madara Uchiha. Have you heard of him? Mousesack seemed thoughtful. Madara Uchiha, that's a strange name. What was so special about him? For starters, he was in the middle of a forest killing necrophages, and he's no older than Ciri, Geralt spoke, making Mousesack raise an eyebrow. Geralt continued, describing the encounter with precise details. He had abilities I've never seen before. His eyes were red, glowing, and he could hang upside down from the trees as if he were glued to them. And there's more, Geralt added. He could spit fire from his mouth. He did it after performing a series of strange hand movements, as if he was forming signs or symbols. Mousesack pondered Geralt's words. That sounds like magic, but unlike anything I know. Hand movements, that could indicate some kind of sorcery or ritual. He said he was hunting necrophages. He used a strange type of weapon he threw with his hands, neutralizing the creatures and fired to finish them off. I've never seen anything like it, Geralt concluded. Interesting, Mousesack murmured. This Madara Uchiha seems to be someone with exceptional abilities. I'll keep that in mind. If he's here in the Cintra forest, some rumors may arise. Geralt nodded. Stay alert, Mousesack. I don't know if he's a threat or an ally. I'll investigate, assured Mousesack. And Geralt, be careful out there. There's something else, Mousesack. When I found Cirilla, we were ambushed by the Dryads and they made us drink a strange liquid. It caused us visions, many of them about the future, began Geralt, his expression serious and thoughtful. Mousesack had a genuinely curious look. Visions, you say? That's typical of the Dryads. They have methods to bind women to them. It's no surprise they tried using it to catch Cirilla. Since you also took the potion, what did you see? Geralt hesitated for a moment, choosing his words carefully. I saw a great frost, one that could destroy everything. And there were other visions, prophecies about a man with various types of eyes. The prophecy said he would bring a great impact to this world in the future, that even the gods would fear him. Mousesack listened to more details of the prophecy and murmured. A man with dark, red, and purple eyes, that's unusual. Do you think? Geralt interrupted him. I think this man might be the boy we met in the forest, Madara Uchiha. He had red eyes. I don't know about the others, but something in him makes me believe he could be the one the prophecy mentioned. I've never seen anything like his abilities and methods. Mousesack pondered this. That's concerning and fascinating at the same time. This prophecy, did it mention Cirilla in any way? Yes, confirmed Geralt. The prophecy seemed to intertwine her destiny with that of this man. I don't know what that means for Ciri, but I felt it was important to tell you. Mousesack nodded, visibly concerned. I'll investigate this further and try to find this boy named Madara Uchiha. I'll continue my journey, said Geralt. But if I find more information or come across this boy again, I'll inform you. An hour later, Geralt approached a cleaner and tidier Cirilla, but with a look of sadness and apprehension. Ciri, it's time for me to leave, he said, trying to offer a reassuring smile, but that wasn't a very good look for a witcher. Cirilla looked at him, her green eyes reflecting a bit of disappointment. Do you have to go? She asked, her voice slightly tremulous. Yes, I have missions to fulfill and monsters to hunt. You'll be safe here, Geralt replied, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. Cirilla nodded, trying to be strong. I'll miss you, Geralt, the last few days were so much fun, she said, with a glimmer of tears in her eyes. Geralt crouched to be at the same level as Cirilla. You're strong, Ciri, and you have Mousesack and the others to look after you. Remember the lessons you've learned and stay safe. Turning to Mousesack, Geralt extended his hand. Mousesack, take good care of her. The druid firmly shook Geralt's hand. I will, Geralt, and thank you for bringing her back safe and sound. You're always welcome here. As much as our queen doesn't like you much, she still knows to be thankful. With those words, Geralt bid farewell to Mousesack and Cirilla, embarking on his journey beyond the domains of Cintra. Mousesack had invited him to the castle, but Calanthe never liked the witcher who was connected to her granddaughter through the law of surprise he invoked on Pavita and her husband at the time as payment. Cirilla watched until he disappeared from sight, feeling a mix of sadness and hope. Perhaps, at some point in the future, their paths would cross again. Meanwhile, she returned to the castle, ready to face the challenges that awaited her in Cintra as its princess. She also did not want to marry another prince, which is why she had fled from the carriage and into the forest. The memories of her adventures with the Witcher in the last few days would be kept close to her heart. Cirilla, let's go to the castle to see your grandmother, Mousesack said, leading the girl to his carriage. Do I have to get married? The girl looked up at him, practically pleading for the answer to be no. I don't know, but some things have happened. I think not, the druid admitted. That's great, she celebrated. Did you have fun? Did you find anything interesting on this adventure? The druid sat in front of the princess, waiting for her to start talking about the mysterious boy. Yes, Mousesack, I can't stop thinking about that boy we met. Madara, who is he? Where did he come from? Cirilla asked, her curiosity overflowing in every word. Mousesack, walking alongside her, replied, I'm not sure, Ciri. The abilities you and Geralt witnessed were certainly unusual. Perhaps I can look into ancient books or ask other druids. Do you think he's dangerous? Cirilla continued, looking at Mousesack with inquisitive eyes. He might be, or maybe he's just a young man with unique abilities, slaying monsters in the forest. Magic and power can be strange, Cirilla. They aren't always a sign of danger but should be approached with caution, Mousesack advised. Cirilla nodded, soaking in the druid's words. He reminded me a bit of Geralt, but in a different way. As if he had a type of magic I've never seen before. The world is full of mysteries, Cirilla. And sometimes, we find more questions than answers, Mousesack said, gazing thoughtfully at the sky. Cirilla sighed. I wish I could understand more about all this. About magic, about monsters, about people like Geralt and Madara. In time, you will learn, Ciri. Knowledge comes with experience and patience, and you have great magical potential within you. Perhaps you could be a sorceress and make your own magic, Mousesack spoke, offering an encouraging smile. But magic is so boring, you have to spend all day reading. She complained. Indeed it is, but it's the way, Mousesack said as the carriage, surrounded by guards, took care of them on the way. 3 comments 0 vote, Chapter 08 Cintra 01. Chapter size, 1500 words. Third person Pav, Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. As Cirilla returned to the castle of Cintra, Madara moved silently through the dense forest, his scarlet eyes sweeping the area for signs of the monsters he was hunting. Having spent these months away from civilization, he had adapted to the rhythm of nature, learning to read the subtle signs that indicated the presence of dangerous creatures. Even though it had been a few days since he found Cirilla and Geralt, he had not yet succeeded in his quest. Only today he managed to find new tracks of a group of necrophages with his Sharingan. He advanced cautiously, and when he finally encountered the necrophages, there were many bodies of dead people in the area, which they sought in the forest or killed, to turn them into these creatures, as they are creatures that arise from corpses. Madara did not hesitate. He advanced to the nest and attacked with precision, throwing chakra-enhanced kunais before approaching for hand-to-hand combat. The fight was brutal, but Madara was prepared. As soon as the creatures noticed his presence with the first necrophages falling to the ground with their faces hit, and they advanced towards Madara, he had already performed the hand seals and took a deep breath. Kaiten. Hosenka no Jutsu. Fireballs rained down on the creatures as the nest and the corpses were all consumed by fire. Some creatures managed to escape, and ran up to Madara running strangely. Madara used his small sword and skillfully dodged the claws while executing quick cuts of the creatures. Although it was not a silver weapon to kill them, he still managed to tear off limbs, making it difficult to move. If someone was watching this fight closely, they would see a 6-year-old boy doing pirouettes and handling a sword that shone with the meeting of the sun in his movements while being surrounded by 6 leprous creatures making sounds of anger. They would be even more alarmed seeing the boy winning as the monsters begin to lose their arms, heads, and legs. Madara, after symbolizing all of them, he launched his fire jutsu again, ending the monsters. I guess with that, I won, Madara murmured, seeing the place being consumed by the fire of his jutsu that began to spread through the place. He had spent 6 months of intensive solitary training in the forest, achieving remarkable mastery over his current chakra, jutsu, and Sharingan. His days were always consumed by a rigorous regime that alternated between deep meditation, jutsu practice, and hunting monsters that infested the darkest regions of the forest. This relentless routine refined his skills, making him a formidable hunter and a master in chakra manipulation. Among his current capabilities, he would say if he were to measure his current power, he would be at the level of Sasuke before the Chunin exams. Despite significant progress in his skills and an increase in his physical and mental strength, the system kept him at only 1% of the total power of the legendary Uchiha Madara. This restriction intrigued and frustrated him in equal measure, as he had no clue how to unlock more power from the system. Madara often speculated about the workings of the system, pondering the actions or achievements he would need to accomplish to unlock more of his latent power. But in the end, his theory that he had to do something big was what he trusted most. Despite that, saving people from death, destroying a bandit camp, and hunting monster nests was never enough. My training ends here, as I'm not gaining anything more from this, Madara murmured, decided to return to the capital, Cintra. He wanted to observe the lives of the people of this world more closely, understand more about this world, now that he had enough strength to protect it from almost any individual danger. With the decision made, Madara bathed in a river before starting his journey back to civilization. He again began his journey that lasted a day as he jumped between trees. As he approached the city limits, Madara could see the city wall with the tip of the castle inside the city. He approached the high walls of Cintra. He did not decide to enter through the gates as he had left. Without much effort now, he channeled his chakra to his feet and accelerated, running towards the wall and continued vertically climbing the stone wall while running, his movements so quick and silent that even the leaves in the wind would make more noise. Upon reaching the top of the wall, he noticed the sentinels positioned at regular intervals, their gazes turned outward, vigilant for external threats. Moving with the precision and grace of a feline, Madara slipped between the blind spots, passing by the sentinels without them noticing his presence. With one last jump on the wall, he leapt directly into the city dozens of meters below without fear. Ha ha ha. This is fun, he said softly with some adrenaline. Stepping on chimneys and ornate ledges, he landed gracefully without damaging anything. Still atop the house he landed on, he looked out over the city, which stretched for miles in front of him with houses and streets running to the opposite side of the wall he had entered. He did not waste any more time and began to jump between the houses heading for the heart of the capital. He used the rooftops of the houses and buildings as his path, leaping from one construction to another with superhuman agility. Below him, the streets of Cintra buzzed with city life, merchants making their last sales, citizens working and tending to their affairs, and watchmen making their routine rounds. However, no one looked up to see the figure moving above them like a swift shadow. I'm here now, what should I do? It would be good to get some money. I'm no longer in the forest where I could hunt animals to eat. Madara thought as he leapt through the air. He headed towards the city center, where commerce was most bustling. However, he changed his direction to the south where there was a less favored area. There was his old orphanage. He found it, a 2-story building. While he looked at the movement of it, many children were doing their chores and there was a woman taking care of them, someone Madara knew well since the last time he was here. He looked at the children and noticed some new ones. Which was normal in the orphanage, but he saw some that he remembered in his memories missing. Imagining that either they would not be there or that someone had adopted them, but there was also a possibility of them being trafficked by the administrators of the place, Madara was not naive in knowing how these people were rotten. He jumped between the nearby houses and headed towards a boy ironically doing the same job he did before hitting his head, which was to fetch the bucket of water from the well. With a silent landing, Madara approached the boy focused on his task while he had not even noticed Madara. "Hey," Madara greeted and the boy got a fright not seeing someone so close to him. "Who? Madara," the boy spoke with a voice of childlike surprise. "Hello Lucas, how are you?" Madara simply greeted him. "I'm good. Wait, you're alive, you disappeared and everyone said you had died, it's been months." The boy spoke a bit shocked. "I'm alive, just taking care of myself now, tell me something, did they throw my clothes away?" he asked. "Yes, Sister Tunny burned everything," he said. "I see, where are the others, I don't see three of you." He asked about the boys he didn't see while he was studying the orphanage. Mary went to buy something at the fair, but Martui and Julia were handed over to strange men during the night, he spoke hesitantly. "What do you mean?" Madara raised an eyebrow. "I saw when Sister Tunny took them in the middle of the night and took them away. I went to the window and saw men who looked like they were from Fred's gang, taking them." He seemed very scared. The next day, Sister Tunny had said that they were adopted without further explanations. "But I saw Madara, I swear I saw that they were taken by force." The boy trembled and cried. "You didn't think to warn anyone about this?" Madara asked. "What could I do? They would do something to me, I hate their whippings, I'm sure it would be worse," the boy spoke, and Madara sighed. "I see, I'll look into this, how long ago?" Madara didn't fail to ask about this too, as it was quite important. 2 months, he said. "Alright, I'll check this out, goodbye." Before Lucas could respond, Madara jumped so high that the boy was left open-mouthed as Madara leapt between buildings leaving him behind stunned. Madara waited until dark before returning to the orphanage. He would find out how this disgusting scheme where the orphanage treated children as merchandise worked. 5 comments 0 vote. Chapter 09 Cintra 02. Chapter size, 1800 words. Third person Pav. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. ... Madara ascended in the cloak of night, leaping between the buildings of houses until he neared the orphanage, treading silently on the wall. He kept his body horizontal as he walked to a window. "Did you hear the boy?" "Yes, such nonsense. He said he saw Madara, that brat who had disappeared, Sister Tunny." "Stop the nonsense, even if he saw, the brat is lost somewhere in the city, we can't do anything." The woman's voice commented. "We should go after him, he would be good to be handed over for the next batch of children, I'm sure that man would like the boy and it wouldn't even raise suspicions about his disappearance," said the voice. Madara looked into the window and saw the woman who took care of the orphanage and an old man, who was the caretaker. He entered through the window without them noticing, while listening attentively to the conversation. Sister Tunny looked towards the window swearing she saw a shadow, but everything seemed normal, so she went back to the caretaker. "Whatever, tomorrow talk to Fred and the others, they can look for the boy around the city and take him to that man," she said, and the caretaker nodded. "So, you want me, this seems even more fun." A voice was heard, startling the two present, and when they looked up, they saw Madara upside down above them with a small smile, his eyes glowing scarlet in the darkness. Before they could react, Madara left the ceiling and with a pirouette kicked both their necks, causing the caretaker and Sister Tunny to fall to opposite sides. Both fell dazed with immense pain and unable to speak, since Madara hit the neck muscle so they couldn't talk for some time. The sound of them falling was loud, but not compared to a scream of surprise, and the orphanage seemed still in silence. Both tried to speak more without success. "You will stay like this for a few hours," he spoke, looking at the two people scared and in pain. "So, it's been 6 months and the first thing I hear from you is talking about me, how ironic, let me know more about this," he said, leaving them even more scared with the child's eyes. "You deliver children to Fred's gang, but who is this man you were talking about?" he asks, and both just looked in silence with eyes shining in fear. "You don't need to talk, after all, you can't do that now, just answer yes or no with your head, how about that?" Madara spoke, but the caretaker, looking scared, started running towards the door. Madara didn't think twice before drawing a kunai and hitting the man's head, making him fall dead the next moment. "Well, as you saw Sister Tunny, we can do this the easy way or the hard way, it's up to you." Madara commented. The woman in front of him was really scared now, imagining how that boy had become this monster. Don't look at me like a monster. After all, we are the same. You sacrifice boys from here, and I pursue my goals. Well, I'm willing to sacrifice you too. Madara spoke without any hesitation. He had killed many in the last months and was getting used to it. Sister Tunny, still scared, nodded her head. Madara began to question her about how this scheme worked. Despite not being able to speak, Madara got what he wanted. He didn't know much about the mysterious man, and Tunny didn't seem to be lying while questioning. But the scheme was somewhat like child trafficking in this place. It seems they were delivered to Fred's gang, ironically a man who came out of this orphanage and went into the world of crime, forming one of the 5 gangs in the city, and they took care of this side. They just acted as intermediaries while the children were delivered to other men. It seemed they were working for a rich person. Anyway, if you do something like this again, I will come after you. Do you hear, Sister Tunny? Madara spoke, looking at her with threatening eyes with his Sharingan. She nodded quickly, scared. Madara left after that. He looked around the room and scanned every inch of the place until he found what he wanted. His eyes could see non-living things behind walls, but he could find small flaws and be quite analytical with his vision. He found what seemed to be a false bottom and quickly opened it. Sister Tunny looked alarmed, but with a look from Madara at her again, she fell silent. So this is the money you receive from this scheme. 500 gold coins is a very large amount, while the children live on just 20 gold coins given by the city administration to maintain the orphanage. Madara commented, already knowing these details. He touched the coins and something happened. The system opened with a call for Madara. System, you have unlocked the first mission. Gather 5,000 gold coins and acquire 1% of the system for every 1,000 coins. This, Madara murmured, a bit surprised, but soon felt somewhat indignant. After all, it wasn't the first time he had seen gold. If I had known about this, I wouldn't have given the money to those victims I saved from the bandit camp. I am really a fool. He thought, a bit frustrated, but also understanding that he couldn't have known about this before. Closing the system, he accepted the system's offer in an option where he could take his current gold, and the gold began to disappear from the box into his hand, going into the system. Mission 1, gather 5,000 gold coins. Progress 521 5,000ths 10%. Madara sighed and closed the system. He stood up and went to the window. Without looking at Sister Tunny, who couldn't speak, he jumped out the window. He would continue his hunt tonight, and now Fred's gang was his new target. As Madara disappeared into the darkness of the night, the city of Cintra, with its flickering lights and winding streets, hid untold stories at every corner. One of those stories was that of Fred, a name that resonated with fear in the darkest alleys of that side of the city. Fred was not a true name, but a title, a symbol of power that the young orphan had adopted as he forged his path through crime. Even before Madara had arrived at the orphanage, Fred had established great power. Madara heard a lot about him from the older children during his time before the system, encountering many times members of his gang, some even beating other orphans. Even in the orphanage, Fred was known to be violent and cunning, leaving Sister Tunny at the time often enraged, but she never did anything tragic because Fred was too dangerous. He learned early that the world did not offer mercy to the weak and proved to be extremely vengeful, even killing a city guard in revenge, and escaped the crime without being caught. He began his domination of this part of the city with his sharp wit and a will of iron. With cruelty against his enemies, he bribed guards, killed competitors and people who challenged him, and had created deep roots in the underworld of Cintra. There were gang wars in the city. No one could dominate the entire city, so it was divided into 5. Often the high administration tried to end the gangs, but they never succeeded, so they gather and dominate each part of Cintra in the most peripheral locations. Madara continued cutting through the dark night of the city while using his eyes to see all the details in the streets below him. There were guards patrolling the place, some drunkards walking the street, and beggars sleeping on the street or trying to rob some establishment. However, Madara had not found anything of interest to him at that moment. Until he had his first encounter by chance a few streets away, a group of members of Fred's gang collecting their tribute from merchants in their homes during the night. Madara stopped on a nearby rooftop and watched from above. When the group finished their collection and moved away through the labyrinthine streets of Cintra, Madara followed them, silently from above them. I look like Batman. Madara couldn't help thinking that, just needing a dark cape. In a narrow and distant alley, Madara made his presence known for the first time, kicking one in the neck while striking another, killing the first 2. Who are you, you little shit? The remaining 3 yelled, holding knives and clubs, but when they saw the eyes of the boy in front of them they hesitated, and Madara didn't hesitate to throw 2 kunais at the heads of 2 of them. What? Don't do anything to me. Please. The last one screamed in terror. Then tell me where Fred's hideout is. He spoke, and Madara nodded. The man did not lie. Leave the city and never return, otherwise, I will find you. Madara threatened him, and the man ran away scared through the dark streets to the main entrance. Returning to the rooftops, he headed for the hideout the man had mentioned, which was in an abandoned temple. There was the headquarters of Fred's gang. On the way, Madara encountered another group in a corner assaulting a woman. He quickly threw kunais, killing all 3 men while the woman still screamed and struggled to get out from under them. She was even more surprised when blood spurted everywhere as they fell dead around her. Madara continued on his way. These bastards, they are a cancer in this city. I'm no saint, I might even say I'm a bad person, but these people are like filthy worms. Madara murmured. During this journey, Madara began to see more gang groups walking through the streets near the temple. He started his slaughter, wanting to finish off all those worms so fast they didn't even feel it as kunais hit their heads. He had left a trail of defeated and dead gang members on every street he passed. Madara finally arrived at the temple. The place was silent, but as he approached the wall, he could hear the shouting of men inside the place, seeming to be celebrating. With his Sharingan, he saw at least 80 people inside, which must have been prostitutes and the gang itself, and there were a few more people in a cell below them. Madara entered through the window and advanced still silently inside. Tonight would be unforgettable for Fred and his gang. 6 comments 0 vote. Chapter 10 Cintra 03. Chapter size 1700 words. Third person POV. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. ... Entering through the window, Madara quickly merged with the shadows stretching across the ancient structure of the abandoned temple. While the people below seemed to be celebrating with loud voices and unrestrained laughter, the nearly 7-year-old boy moved undetected above them. Madara crossed to the other side of the temple as his scarlet eyes allowed him to map the temple's interior as much as he could. His face turned towards the people below. Bandits and prostitutes danced, and even with some naked, while others didn't even care as they took off their clothes and had sex right there in front of the others. As they drank and even bothered Madara many meters away from them with the strong smell of alcohol. This must be Fred. Madara looked at the man sitting in a chair while he had a prostitute with exposed breasts on his lap. Madara marked the man and had already thought that he would not leave there without killing him after asking some questions. He began to move along the wall with his feet in chakra while finding a window to enter other areas of the temple. As he walked through the place, he even encountered some drunk men along the way. Without saying much, Madara kicked their necks, catching them by surprise as he walked along the wall and ceiling, jumping from the spot and breaking in a way they couldn't even imagine how they had died. Madara continued on his way, searching through corridors and rooms while killing more men from Fred's gang. His Sharingan could detect life but couldn't see through walls to other things, so it was a bit difficult to find what he was looking for, but he finally found a corridor to a room with 5 guards. This was the vault. Why do we have to stay here while everyone else is having fun outside? One guard complained. Silence, it's our shift day, just do your job and screw some whore tomorrow, another said. Meanwhile, Madara moved upside down and threw his wooden kunais at 2 men, hitting their heads while he jumped on the last 2. What's this? One of them shouted as he saw his partners dying with some kind of projectile in their forehead. Before he could say more, he was attacked by Madara. Just as there were only 2 men left, stunned and unable to scream, Madara launched another kunai at one while running to the last and cutting his throat. After clearing the guards, he went to the place, which was a vault, but there wasn't a lock. Instead, Madara searched something on the walls using his eyes to see anything that indicated a secret button. Looking around, he noticed a brick different from the others and pressed it. After that, it didn't take long for the door to open for the boy. This is kind of disappointing. Madara comments as he looked at what was in front of him, just weapons in a gold box. He approached and touched it, ignoring anything else there. System. 713 gold coins recognized. Do you wish to donate to acquire 1% of Madara Uchiha's strength? Yes. Mission 1, gather 5,000 gold coins. Progress 1,234, 5,024%. System. Donation accepted. You have acquired more than 1,000 coins and gained another 1% of Madara Uchiha's strength. Continue your mission to unlock more power. As the gold coins disappeared and the system messages began to manifest, Madara felt a wave of energy flow through his body. It was more than just an increase in his physical power, it was an expansion of his chakra, which grew in intensity and volume. Not only did the chakra increase, but information also began to emerge in his mind. Madara received a new fire jutsu in his mind. Gokakyu no Jutsu, Great Fireball Technique, AC rank jutsu, which is an ability that allowed the user to exhale from the lung a massive sphere of fire that could engulf an opponent, a devastating attack that was both a test of skill and a rite of passage among the Uchihas. This is interesting, but my chakra is already becoming a bit unstable since I'm not used to this current volume. I have to be careful and train my control later, and even the new jutsu, which is more devastating than the old one. Madara comments, looking at his hand, feeling the new flow of chakra passing through the channels in his body. System, peak of power, 2%. Chakra, 150 chakra, equivalent to a genin. Note, chakra is the vital energy used to perform jutsus. It must be managed carefully. Sharingan, 1 tomo. Note, allows enhanced perception and the ability to anticipate basic enemy movements. Mangekyo Sharingan, locked. Eternal Mangekyo Sharingan, locked. Rinnegan, locked. Fire jutsus. Kaden, Hosenka no Jutsu, Fire Technique, Phoenix Flower Jutsu. Description, allows the user to spit multiple fireballs in quick succession. Requires practice for improvement. Kaden, Gokakyu no Jutsu, Fire Technique, Great Fireball Technique. Description, launches a large fireball with the breath from the lungs. Requires practice for improvement. Wind jutsus, locked. Wood jutsus, locked. After closing the system, he left the room, heading towards where there were people stopped in the basements, captives of the gang. He intended to survey the entire situation before launching a direct attack at the gang's party. He quickly passed by the bodies he had killed and headed towards the stairs in one of the corridors he found, speeding up to see the prisoners before some drunk saw the bodies he left in the temple corridors. Descending into what seemed to be a dungeon, there, Madara found a series of old cells. Inside them, men, women, and even children were imprisoned. They looked downcast and didn't even seem to notice Madara entering quietly. The sound of the party was muffled by the distance and ceiling. Madara continued to walk through the place. Some finally noticed Madara's presence, startling them. "Who are you?" A woman shouted, a bit scared seeing a child with glowing red eyes in the dark. Madara ignored the woman and everyone who looked at him with considerable fear. His attention was on one of the children's cells. A specific one had a child in a dress. He knew very well, since this girl was someone from his memories in the orphanage. The problem is that there was no more life in the girl. She was with cuts and destroyed. Madara knew this is done with experiments. Fred and his gang would not likely do something like this. It is probably someone who receives the children and just returns them to the gangs to dispose of the bodies. "When did she die?" Madara asked, and the other children were a bit scared to answer. This girl was not the only dead child there were at least 3 more. "It's been a week since they brought her. She died 2 days ago asking for help, but those monsters did nothing," said a beaten man with a somber tone. "I see." Madara didn't have much knowledge, so he didn't know much about exactly how many days she had died from the smell. "Listen, everyone," Madara began without taking his eyes off the child, "I will free you and deal with Fred and his gang. You must run from the temple while I distract all of them." He spoke, drawing his sword, which glowed with blue chakra, and began to cut the lock of the children's cell and quickly moved to the adults. After cutting them all, he disappeared up the stairs before anyone there could react, just seeing their doors opening. "What was that?" The man who had answered the child spoke, stunned. Madara continued the path until he approached the main hall. The sounds of festivity continued loud. He arrived at one of the entrances, entering the hall calmly. He would start by killing them like a ninja, but he was quite angry now and would launch a direct attack, not eliminating them stealthily. A child. A man kissing a prostitute looked towards the entrance and spotted a boy with closed eyes entering the place. "Hey, who's the kid? Who invited her? Ha 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 ha." Another drunkenly pointed at Madara and started to laugh. Fred looked where the men were pointing and saw the child with closed eyes. "Hey, did a child escape? What are the others doing?" Fred shouted in rage as the noise began to quiet down. "Grab that child and take him to the cell, and see what the others are doing." Fred growled, a bit drunk but furious. A tall man approached Madara, who no longer had his sword after breaking it on the locks, and touched his shoulder to take him to the cell. However, the man tried to move the child forcefully and strangely found it difficult. At that moment, someone entered through the door behind Madara. The prisoners are escaping. Someone killed all our men. He shouted worriedly, and in that time, Madara opened his eyes and grabbed a knife from the waist of the man who was grabbing him before slashing his neck. Everyone looked on in shock at this, and almost no one could breathe seeing that, as the man fell holding his neck, unable to even scream, hitting the ground. Madara looks around at everyone, and even the man behind him falls backward scared. I've noticed that you are trafficking children from the orphanage, so I came here to see to whom you deliver the children. You can tell for good or bad, but it doesn't matter, because before this night ends, I intend to eliminate every last one of you. Madara declared, holding just the knife he used to kill the man. He begins to walk through the quite stunned group with those red eyes, looking at them like an implacable predator. 4 comments 0 vote. Chapter 11 Cintra 04. Chapter size 1700 words. Third person Pav. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. ... The sounds of drinks, laughter, and even moaning women were replaced by the silence that followed Madara's declaration. Everyone looked around, unsure whether they were more surprised by the boy killing the man so easily or by his statement that he would eliminate everyone there, while his red eyes followed each person present. Fred, from his chair, threw his prostitute aside without care anymore and looked at Madara with anger. What are you waiting for? Kill that red-eyed freak. He gave the order, and even though they had no weapons at the moment, many advanced with sticks they had found scattered around the hall, while others picked up knives to attack the child. Madara remained motionless as he saw the men approaching, very cautiously, especially because he seemed so calm when surrounded. His scarlet eyes were now fixed on Fred. He advanced a few steps, everyone still cautious. The boy walked among them as if he expected them to attack him. The women present at the party were watching cautiously while they gathered in a corner. What is this monster doing? Said a man with a piece of wood. What are we waiting for? Get him, we need to capture the prisoners. If the guards catch them before us, they will charge us a good amount of money. Said Fred, enraged. The first man acted. He was fat, and had a large piece of wood in his hand, throwing it at Madara. The boy, until then walking calmly, dodged the wood, and with a pirouette, he reached the fat man's neck before quickly cutting it with his knife. This move stirred the rest of the men as they all ran towards Madara with anger at seeing a gang member being killed like that. It was a strange scene, but Madara quickly was surrounded and began to dance among them all, just using his knife and dodging to avoid attacks. For everyone around, it was bizarre to see a boy doing pirouettes while men tried to kill him, although they already defined Madara as an aberration. Ah! A prostitute screamed in fright. At a certain moment, Madara began to retaliate and started to cut and kill the men with fatal blows. Even the boy had blood on his body while fighting the rest. Go! Kill the boy! Fred shouted to other men standing just watching. They began to run into the fight too. Even being clumsy drunks and even drugged around Madara, anyone could die surrounded in that way, while Madara made one man fall after another, spreading blood all over the place. Even the men affected by alcohol began to retreat in fear, seeing that the aberration in front of all of them had already killed more than 10 men and continued untouchable beyond the blood of the men themselves that got on his clothes. Fred, frowning, where are the archers? Shoot him! 3 men emerged with loaded crossbows. They aimed at Madara, and the boy decided to act. Moving away from where the bodies were, he ran towards the men. The bolts from the crossbows went in his direction. One he used his body to lower, another used his knife, and the last bolt was missed by the archer. He approached the group of men while starting to cut them again. Screams of terror filled the place that until moments ago had drunk laughter and lascivious conversations. The women who sold their bodies began to flee, not wanting to stay there. Where do you think you're going? Fred screamed and was enraged with some men trying to escape too, but surprisingly, Madara had thrown knives he found on the ground, hitting them and making them fall dead. Madara continued on his way and his target was Fred, but the men began blocking his path with some brave ones. More bolts flew in his direction while he used his Sharingan spinning to dodge the weapons. The boy grabbed a knife from the men he was fighting and began to throw it at the men with crossbows, taking them all down. Fred, watching this with much caution, decided to act differently while his men were being killed by this aberration, and grabs a barrel from the high place he was and opens it, throwing it in the middle of the group fighting. This was a special powder that Fred kept to fight against other gangs in the city. The Night Whisper powder was an alchemically formulated compound especially designed to incapacitate people and temporarily blind them. A powder explodes above Madara and the other men. That's it. Got you. Fred celebrates, seeing that Madara was also caught by the powder. This wasn't the gang's only barrel. They always had chemical weapons to fight against other city gangs, one of which were the flammable barrels at the site that exploded upon the first touch of fire. They would be stored in the warehouse, but Fred was starting a war against the neighboring gang the following week, so they were celebrating and preparing at the same time. When the smoke cleared, many men were with closed and stunned eyes. "What's happening?" yelled one. "Where's the monster?" said another, trying to hit the air with a piece of wood. A bit further away, the child appears with his eyes closed too. "This is bad, what is this? I can't even open my eyes and my head is spinning." Madara complained. "Ha ha 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 ha, got the freak, now kill him," Fred announced, seeing Madara dazed, unable to open his eyes. The men who saw this and were not affected by the powder became courageous. There were at least about 20 of them still, and they advanced against Madara. Hearing the multiple steps heading in his direction, Madara clings to the only certainty he has, his chakra. With his eyes still closed, his mind foggy seeking clarity, he concentrates, moving his hands according to his muscle memory of the last months. He quickly creates the necessary seals, invoking one of the jutsus he masters with more precision, Kaiten, Hosenka no Jutsu Fire Release, Phoenix Sage Fire Technique. As the gang approaches and doesn't care if the boy is doing something strange with his hands, Madara fills his lungs and blows towards everyone in front of him, releasing multiple fireballs towards his enemies. "What is this?" Fred looked surprised at the sudden glow that appeared in front of him and saw the boy spitting numerous fireballs. Flames collided with the entire place while scared and pained screams emerged at the sight. "It's burning! Fire!" They screamed as the room went up in flames. The fire spread until it reached other gang barrels. This. Fred looked dazed at the fire and the barrel before jumping back. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. 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 Barrels began to explode at the sight. Madara was at a common distance while waiting for his eyes to improve. He didn't need to worry about the heat of the flames, since his elemental affinity would protect him from that, but he had to leave before the oxygen in the place ran out. Slowly opening his eyes, he could at least see everything blurred at this moment. Ignoring the screams of pain, Madara began to walk through the place, towards the exit. People were still running through the place looking for the exit. Some managed to escape while others were hit by debris falling after the fire started exploding the barrels. But before he could realize, someone advanced against him and with his muscle memory, he lifted the knife and parried a sword that was heading in his direction. "You damn monster. You can even spit fire. Never seen anyone do that before," Fred commented with a diabolical smile. Quote. Madara didn't respond while he kept the sword pressing against his knife. Fred withdrew his sword and tried to strike another blow at Madara. The Uchiha boy saw the blur and parried again on the left side. "What's wrong? Having trouble seeing? You may have destroyed my gang tonight, but I at least will take you with me." Fred knew that after the fire spread and the barrels exploded, he wouldn't last much longer, so he would take this monster with him, consumed by the hatred and alcohol he had ingested at the party. Madara tried to counter the man amid the flames with more barrels exploding in the place. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. Asterisk boom. Asterisk. I can't beat him without my eyes, and he doesn't give me space to perform my jutsu. Madara thought as Fred would deliver another slash. Madara skillfully spun the knife and threw it, embedding it directly into the man's shoulder, making him drop the sword. "You son of a bitch!" Fred growled as he fell injured backward. "You almost got me," Madara murmured as he approached. "Tell me about the children, who receives them?" Madara asked seriously. He didn't have much time. His chakra was also nearly depleted after using the Sharingan all night. "Go fuck yourself, freak." Fred cursed. He wouldn't answer the child and would rather die than do that after what the boy did. Understanding this, Madara picked up the sword that had fallen to the ground and drove it into the man's chest to make sure he would die there. With a look of surprise, Fred died as the flames of the place spread and began to consume his body. With nothing else to do, Madara followed the corridors trying to find an exit. Even with his vision still blurred, he managed to climb a wall and exited unseen by the crowd. emerging outside as the old temple burned, illuminating the sky of Cintra. Raccoon here. I wrote this chapter, but I felt like something was missing in it. Give me your opinion. 8 comments 0 vote. Chapter 12 Cintra 05. Chapter size. 2,100 words. Third person Pav. Cintra, Northern Kingdoms. As Madara escaped by climbing the walls and leaping across houses, that part of the city was already in chaos. At first, the guards who avoided these areas because they were dominated by gangs were surprised by the sky shining, which soon led them to hear people screaming about fire as they ran, prompting them to quickly inform the commander. A little girl sleeping in a high room of the castle woke up to the disturbance of a faint light at her window, and she went to it to see flames in the middle of the city, wondering what was happening. Fire in the Greg gang area. A man shouted in the barracks. Let's enter the area. He quickly gathered 30 soldiers and headed to that side of the city. They quickly arrived at the temple and saw people in tattered clothes, women running, and some of Greg's men running with injuries and burns. Catch those men and stop those prostitutes. The commander spoke. Stop. The guards began to catch the fleeing people. Control the crowd, don't let the fire from inside the temple spread. Asterisk boom, asterisk boom, asterisk boom, asterisk boom, asterisk. Damn Greg and his men, did they have bombs stored? The captain growled, hearing the explosions inside. They began trying to control the fire while pushing back the growing crowd of onlookers. As they tried to prevent the fire from spreading outside the temple and reaching other parts of the city, new platoons of soldiers began to follow because half of Cintra could see the fire in the sky by then. Captain, Lord Mausasak is here. A soldier spoke, and the commander went to greet the court mage. Lord Mausasak, it's good to see you here. Can you stop the fire? The commander greeted him properly. Yes, give me space. Mausasak said, placing his staff on the ground as he walked to the temple. Give space to Lord Mausasak. They began to shout orders, and Mausasak started to summon his magic with an incantation. He began to invoke his magic, and the fire from the temple windows began to respond to it and tremble before starting to decrease. Mausasak looked somewhat tired since the temple was not small, and he had to use a large amount of chaos energy. He returned to the commanders of the soldiers. Now, can you explain to me what happened here? Mausasak asked calmly. This place belonged to one of the city's gangs. Their leader was known as Fred. According to what his men said, they were attacked by a monster child. That's where the chaos started, the man spoke cautiously. And why would a city gang feel comfortable occupying an abandoned temple, and nobody did anything about it? Mausasak asked with a sharp look. That, unfortunately, we couldn't deal with their gang, the man stuttered a bit. It doesn't matter now, let me see those men who survived, I want to hear more about this monster child. Mausasak put that matter aside and walked over to some captured men as they fled from the burning temple. I swear, I saw the child, it had evil red eyes and could kill a man before he could react with sharp claws. Said a man chained to the ground surrounded by soldiers. Shut up, you're completely drunk, said the guard, slapping the man. Wait, let me hear them. Mausasak appeared, and the guard made way for the druid to talk to the men. There were 5 of them captured, some crying with burned arms and others injured with cuts, as Mausasak could see. Tell me more about this monster. Mausasak asked. Why should we? A man beside him spoke and spat on the ground. This monster seems to have ruined your entire gang, don't you at least want revenge? Mausasak asked again as the man huffed. We should talk, that monster had wings on its back and spat fire. Said the first drunk returning to his story. Shut up, you idiot. If you want to tell him, at least tell the truth and don't lie like a drunk fool, the second man growled at his companion and turned back to Mausasak. We were partying when we discovered a child appearing in the middle of the hall. Soon after they said the prisoners had escaped, and we thought the child was one of them. I swear I saw, when Zeph was going to take the child to the cage, the boy pulled a knife from Zeph's own waist before he could react and I saw Zeph falling to the ground writhing like a pig as his neck was cut by the knife, he said, looking at the. He used a knife. He didn't have claws. Mausasak asked curiously. No, he knew how to use it. I've never seen anyone like that. I would say the child was some kind of assassin wizard. I saw him get involved in a fight of several people against the child, and he could dodge all attacks while he seemed to play as he reaped everyone's lives. The man spoke and paused before continuing. Tell me, wizard, are the witches creating a new kind of aberration now? I know very well that that child was human, but his red eyes, how he moved, and how he killed all of us as if we were mere slaughter, that was not human at the same time, the man growled. Not that I know of any new experiment about witches. But this is intriguing, this reminds me of one of my recent investigations. Tell me, what was the boy's eye like? Mousesack asked. The eye, to me, it's just red, what more could I say? The man spoke, shrugging. I saw it. They like eyes of the very devil that was hungry to take our souls. Ouch. The first drunk spoke scared, but took a punch from his companion. If you're going to say something right, you idiot, said the second man. I saw it, a third from the group spoke softly, and Mousesack looked at him. At one moment, the child looked at us after killing Zeph. He said he would kill us and leave no one alive. When he looked at us, I saw his eyes were red, but had black designs on them. I can't say what they look like, I've never seen anything like it, said the other man. This really does match the description of Geralt. Mousesack murmured and returned to the men. How did the fire start? Was it the child who did it, spitting fire from his mouth? Mousesack asked to make sure they were talking about the same child. Yes, we thought we had caught the damn thing. Fred threw some powder on him, which blinded him, but you can imagine our surprise when he started to move his hand and make strange signs before spitting fire at all of us. That shouldn't be right, were we facing some kind of dragon? A fourth spoke. I see, well, it seems I know who we are talking about, Mousesack concluded and asked to see the captives. He spent some more time interrogating and was surprised that the child had released the prisoners before starting the attack so that they could escape. At least the child doesn't seem to be so bad. Mousesack gave his observation and returned to the castle, since the next day he had to report to his queen. As soon as the day dawned, he was summoned by the queen. In the throne room was Calanth Fiona Rhiannon sitting in the highest chair, symbolizing the highest position in the kingdom. By her side, her current husband, Iced Tersiche, leader of the Skellige Islanders. To Mousesack's surprise, little Cirilla also appeared in the throne room. Good morning, Mousesack, I hope you have slept well, Calanth greeted him. In the throne room at that moment, it was just the royalty and armed guards. Thank you for asking, my queen, I am well. Even due to recent events, Mousesack bowed and waited for his queen to speak. So I would like you to proceed with what you discovered, because my city was involved in a fire in the middle of the night. But before I must deal with our little intruder today, she turned to Cirilla standing next to the throne. You never come here to listen to the nobles, why your interest today? She raised an eyebrow. I saw the fire. I want to know what happened too. Cirilla spoke with a sly smile. Perhaps this is not a conversation for a little girl, Calanth said. Please, I promise I'll never run away again, Cirilla pleaded. Let the little girl, Calanth, I'm sure the more you lock her up, the more rebellious she will be, said Iced next to her with a smile while winking at Ciri. Calanth did not like that while sending a hawkish look to her husband, but ended up not commenting anything and turned her attention back to the court mage. Proceed with the story. Yes, my queen, Mousesack said and began to recount. So a child wiped out almost an entire gang in one night? Calanth said, raising an eyebrow. Yes, my queen, Mousesack said after he had spoken about the report. Cirilla wanted to speak, but Calanth stopped her before continuing. This is quite unusual, is the child by any chance? She spoke and was going to finish with a monster, as no 6-year-old child should be so cruel or have so many abilities that she only imagined witches should have. I don't know, it could be that, it could be a witcher who went through the trials, although the age is even younger than what the known schools tested for, or it could be something new, Mousesack commented. The strange abilities of this Madara Uchiha intrigued him, and he had never seen someone fight in that way. Monster or not, this child must be a great warrior, Iced commented with some humor. In Skellige, strength was always respected. It's him, I knew it, Cirilla shouted, no longer able to contain herself. So this child is the one that the witcher and my granddaughter found in the forest. He entered Cintra. Calanth asked with a sharp look. Yes. Do you think he is a threat? Should we try to get rid of him at all costs? Calanth asked again. Clearly she was concerned about a boy who possesses such strength, and if he were a threat, she would mobilize all the city's forces behind the child with red eyes. I cannot say yet, My queen, this morning I heard a report that the boy belonged to an orphanage and had disappeared months ago. He used to have black eyes, not red. Before he started the attack, he went to the orphanage and the caretaker said he tortured and killed another man. This to me is quite concerning, the druid spoke and continued. But I must still say that the boy saved a handful of men, women, and children from human trafficking this night. Moreover, Geralt told me that he saved Cyrilla's life. I believe this may warrant the benefit of the doubt before saying he is a threat, Mousesack commented, analyzing the whole situation. Yes, it's true. I knew it, we are connected. He had black eyes too. Cyrilla seemed to be unraveling a puzzle with joy. You are not connected to anyone. Calanthe shouted at the girl. The last thing she wanted to hear was about fate and these connections. It was enough that her granddaughter was connected with that witcher, now there's another boy. She refuses to believe and did not want to hear more about it. Cyrilla lowered her head with her grandmother's fury, while Calanthe turned back to speak. I want posters of this child all over the city with a reward. I want you to capture him. Calanthe gave the order to the commander of the guard in the room, and he quickly bowed and started to leave to carry out his orders.